Ladies and gentlemen, U.S. report concluded. This is a Reuters article. It will be below in the pinned comment. It's from a Wall Street Journal article, or it's a Reuters report summarizing a Wall Street Journal report that what President Trump was saying in terms of possible engineering of you-know-what was always a possibility that should have been discussed and addressed. You couldn't talk about that because it benefited Trump politically. It took the blame off of him, or at least it added nuance and context and took the political momentum away from Democrats. So this was not Trump's fault. The notion that people lost their lives because of Trump is only pushed by the most ignorant, the most short-sighted, fanatical zealots that want to absolve Andrew Cuomo and Whitmer and Democrats who, Pelosi included, AOC and others, who said that Trump's and our beloved President Biden, who opposed Trump in late January. They said he downplayed everything, which was, that's an allegation based on sentiment. He didn't downplay anything. Bob Woodward and unnamed intelligence sources that say he received information long before everybody ignore the fact that there were articles written in late January, early February, where they were saying millions could perish. It was public record that this could be a catastrophe, or the catastrophe it ended up being. It was always public record, and Democrats always did the exact opposite of Trump. Trump was a xenophobic liar. So let's just assume that he downplayed everything. Does that mean that Democratic governors were waiting for him to lead them? Democratic states, according to the New York Times statistics, had the worst outcomes, both in terms of per capita rate and aggregate numbers. Now we're finding out that this was potentially a gift, quote unquote, that was linked to human involvement through very bizarre engineering. The article from Yahoo will be below in the description section. This is a Reuters article talking about a Wall Street Journal article. So when this, or if this is reviewed by a human reviewer, please look at the Reuters article below. U.S. report concluded. Okay, and this is from Reuters. This is June 7th, 2021. Trump was completely vindicated. You couldn't talk about Hunter's emails. That was, the New York Post had their accounts suspended. It makes you wonder, like, Democrats have every conceivable advantage. They got the White House, they got the presidency, but they didn't do well in Congress. How does that work? They didn't do well in They got the Senate, but they lost seats in the House. And 2022 looks like, they lost seats in the House, and they barely have. Now you have Joe Manchin completely taking a giant torpedo to the filibuster, and most importantly, a bill that would perhaps, undermine the integrity of presidential congressional contests, according to Trump. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Hit subscribe to H.A. Goodman's other channel. You had Fauci, who in his emails acknowledged the possibility and publicly said, oh my goodness, that's tinfoil hat theory. There's no possibility at all. Or it's just very unlikely. Whereas his emails show that it was a concern. He had a public and a private face. The problem was that he was revered, and if you disagreed with him in any way, shape, or form, You were contributing to lives being lost. This was while Andrew Cuomo was putting infected people into elderly care facilities, and Whitmer and Phil Murphy and others were doing the same thing. Democrats impeached Trump. Then the next week, all of this started affecting the country and the world. New York then became the epicenter. New York is run only by Democrats. If you want to look at it from the lenses of the media and Democrats, this was a Democratic Party issue. And this was an issue where they botched everything, not Trump. Trump never told anyone, he never advocated that you ingest Drano. Never said that. There's no evidence that he was given the severity of this by intel agencies. That was from a New York Times or Washington Post article. I think it was New York Times article that listed anonymous intel sources. There's zero evidence. Where's the evidence? And almost every story about Trump is, oh, look, he meant to say this, it's in here. So the both sides, he never said that. He never said that the 1930s and 1940s Germans were fine people. He never said this. Scott Adams actually has a back and forth with the journalists at the Daily Beast who promoted this myth. And Scott Adams is basically saying, look, it's right here. He never said that. And then the journalist has to acknowledge, oh, yeah, well, that's only after. He only condemned after he was pushed on it. Like, no, he wasn't pushed on it. The question was, Robert E. Lee or the statement was Robert E. Lee and George Washington are different, and conservatives were there to keep up a Robert E. Lee statue, and to the left there is no difference between George Washington and Robert E. Lee. To the far left, and actually to many mainstream Democrats, there's no difference at all. And so we can go on forever. There's so many things he didn't say. He never disparaged fallen Americans. There's no evidence of that at all, and that was completely fabricated by The Atlantic. Where is the evidence? He never gave classified intelligence to the Russians. That was also an unnamed source. Where are President Obama's phone transcripts, by the way? Why is it only Trump gets his phone transcript and then impeached over an ellipsis, where President Zelensky himself stated, yeah, they never pressured me. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's pretty unbelievable. But now you have U.S. Intel backs Trump. And this was contrary to what U.S. Intel was saying during Trump's administration. And then he said, look, I've seen the intelligence report. Like, Trump was a lot more honest than President Obama or than Biden is right now. He never had a public relations structure. He engaged, when he speaks, it's a lot of hyperbole, but it's a lot of presidential, hyperbolic presidential, exaggerations on good things like the economy being, a record low unemployment. He never worked with Russia. He was telling the truth there. He never pressured anybody. He was telling the truth there. And he never told anyone to commit violent acts. He told the truth there. But see, again, they spin everything. It's this monstrosity. And now you couldn't talk about certain things, but now you can because it's not a political liability for Democrats. The First Amendment of in this country has been completely ripped apart by morally superior, a great many liberal Democrats who are morally superior always, oftentimes apoplectic, seething, fuming with indignation, who just simply can't possibly listen or accept a viewpoint that they disagree with or that could undermine them. They truly believe Trump worked with Russia, even though Mueller found no evidence of anything that would lead to an indictment. Now they're going after Trump, and if he gets indicted in New York, his status will skyrocket. Because the entire planet, including Democrats and definitely independents and Republicans as well, will know that they're just doing it to just tank his chances in 2024, which would actually help him. It would be purely political, not the rule of law. The Clintons don't, that whole thing was the foundation. So they don't go, forget about it. The point is you had Biden with emails where he lied through his teeth. You have emails showing that Bill Clinton enriched himself through Bill Clinton Inc. from a foundation employee. And they're going after Trump, a billionaire who was always wealthy, and ignoring lifelong politicians. And now you have Fauci, who tried to make out with a nice book, and that's off the shelves now. Give me your thoughts below. Trump's vindicated eventually by U.S. Intel. Isn't that interesting? Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now to this channel and H.A. Goodman's